Hi, good afternoon to all the viewers on Facebook and on Facebook of Animation Express, the Animation Express page, Kelly Chaka and IndianTelevision.com. It's lovely to have another virtual fireside chat this afternoon. Games are really proliferating in India. This pandemic has allowed a lot of young people and even older people such as myself to find time to play games online late at night. Earlier it was a phenomenon which was left to only the younger kids, and we used to frown on them, the older people like me. I'm in my 50s. But I used to enjoy playing games when I was younger, but business and work keeps you busy, so you get off it. But this pandemic has allowed a lot of us to go online and play games. I, of course, play a very silly game, but it's been played by a lot of people, and it's a game which our guest has been propagating a lot, Ludo. So I used to play that as a youngster, but in between I did play lots of other games, action games, multiplayer games, and but let's get down to business. So gaming has been really skyrocketing. Screen time has been going up. Number of players who've been engaging with games has been going up, thanks to the cheaper data that has been made available by all the telcos, but flared by Reliance Jio. And to talk about what's been going on in the past 1 month, the past 6 months, and what we expect to happen in the near future, we have a very, very knowledgeable person from this industry, somebody who's been leading a player which has been making waves called Paytm First Games. We have the CEO of the company here. I'll begin by asking, so what have you been up to, Sudhanshu? Sudhanshu is the CEO of Paytm First Games. So what have you been up to, and how are you?
Good, Anil. I'm very good, and thank you very much for having me here. It's always a pleasure talking to another industry expert like you and share what's happening in the industry. It's been a very interesting last few weeks, I would say a month and a half or so. Of course, nobody could have really predicted what was going down. But the last 6 weeks have meant a lot of things for a lot of people, but even for us, especially in the gaming industry, it's been a really, really busy time.
Fantastic. So, you've been an old-time Paytm loyalist, been with Vijay Shekhar for a long time.
Yeah.
So you were actually helping in coding and setting up the cashless ecosystem that he was setting up, which is working so well today. What drew you to games? I mean, agreed it was a job, but are you a gamer yourself? Are you a player?
Absolutely, Anil. In fact, I used to bunk my classes way back during my MBA periods and play Counter-Strike. And, this is way back in 2000, I would say 2000, around 2004 and 7. I would actually, be up all night. We would have our clan. We would play Counter-Strike like hours and hours on. We would actually participate in, the small circuits and leagues that used to happen at that time. And that was really the time that the gamer in me sort of like woke up, right? But after that, it's been a very interesting journey. I finished.
What was your handle, by the way? Before you go ahead, what was your handle as a gamer?
My handle used to be Anathema.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we used to have a clan called MML. I won't go into the full form of that, but my handle used to be Anathema, and that used to be sometimes Anathema and sometimes Slipknot. These are both based on the bands that I used to really love at that time. So
fantastic. So did you actually go out and play professionally, or there weren't enough gaming circuits?
Well, there weren't enough circuits at that time. It was still very much just the college leagues. Or I remember at that time there used to be these Reliance Web Worlds.
Sure.
So they would probably organize some local tournaments. We would probably just go play in that. We were still probably fairly amateur, not really having the time probably to go to pro. But that used to be a fun time for us. I think, for us in college, it was all about, for about 10, 15 of us, it was just about gaming, those 2 years in MBA. So that happened. And then after that, I actually moved to a company called Pepsi and then Diageo. And there, obviously I can't go and play Counter-Strike with my friends. So I bought a PS4. Again, the same trend continued, sleepless nights with gaming. But then about in 2011, I moved to Flipkart. That was my first job in the internet space here. And then 2013, since I've been with Paytm, right? So, the career has moved through industries and verticals. And then all of a sudden, about 2 years back, we at Paytm decided to get into the gaming business. And I quickly raised my hand and I was like, can I please be a part of it? And that's how I sort of got back to gaming.
Fantastic. So it's good to have a gamer, anathema or Slipknot, leading the games revolution for Paytm. Fantastic. Really good. So have you got time to play games since then?
Well,
or no?
No, I think I do end up playing a lot of games, but professionally, I would call it testing, and
Okay.
That still helps us get a few gaming hours in every now and then. But yeah, I think gaming eventually, when it's a passion for you, you eventually do find time. I mean, even though we all get really busy with it, there will be that weekend where you will probably sneak in a couple of hours between the work and the life balance to get in gaming. So yeah, I do manage to clock in a few hours every now and then.
And what games are impressing you now on the horizon, or which have come out in the past year?
Well, I mean, currently I am completely sucked into Call of Duty Mobile. That's the one
Okay.
that I've been really playing. Then on the PC, I've been playing Doom Eternal. So I'm more of a first-person shooter fan, and
Sure.
that's I quickly get attracted to these games. So these are the two games that I've been playing. I think in the last few months. Doom Eternal just came out, I think, last month. So that's what's been keeping me busy with that.
So what do you like about these two games? Apart from them being first shooter, is it the battle play? What is it?
Well, I mean, Call of Duty, I think what I like about that is the fast gameplay, also the
Yeah.
smaller and the shorter format. I mean, the Battle Royale still takes about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how soon you die. But in Call of Duty Mobile, even if when you have 5 minutes, you can play a few multiplayer games. So that's what I like. And of course, it's more on the tactical side as well. So you've got to really figure out the dynamics of the game, the physics of the game, the maps. You have to understand them and play along, right? On the flip side, Doom Eternal is complete. Like it's just a first-person shooter mashup, right? There is no bound to the imagination that these guys come up with, and the weapons are out of the world, and even the gameplay sometimes takes very interesting turns. So subtle differences, very tactical, very fast-paced. Doom Eternal is also very fast-paced, but I would say it's less tactical in that sense. And that's what I enjoy about both these games.
Fantastic. That's a bit of insight into the CEO of Paytm First Games and about his entire gaming journey, personally and professionally, and what he's been doing these days now. Let's get on with the question about the gaming industry. So what are the trends we've seen ever since the pandemic started? And let's say, what was life like for you as a platform before COVID and the lockdown? What has it been during the lockdown? What has life been for the company? In terms of screen time, in terms of signups, in terms of engagement, in terms of gameplay time that people put on the platform?
Right. So it's been quite a ride last few weeks. Especially around 22nd of March when the whole country sort of got into lockdown. We weren't expecting this, right? I mean, before this, as a platform, we were also sort of gearing up for the fantasy season, which was supposed to start along with the IPL. And in fact, a couple of months before that, everything was sort of working towards that, right? And then all of a sudden, the lockdown happens. And the one big sort of chunk of growth or business that you're expecting disappears, right? But then what happened, interestingly, is, and that's where I think we as a platform benefited, is that we were never just a one game app. We were always multiple games and multiple categories and genres also in a single app. So we literally made a new Ludo ground up in a week's time from the time the lockdown was announced, because we could see that people will be at home, and Ludo was already pretty popular by then. But then we realized people are going to be at home, and this would definitely become one of the more engaging games for the audiences. And then we launched Ludo, and ever since then it's been literally like driving at 100 kilometers per hour up a hill in terms of all the metrics that we've seen. We've got so I was talking about we quickly developed a new Ludo, and we decided that it doesn't matter if fantasy is going to get hit for now, but we have most of these games that people are playing, so let's push on Ludo, right? And it's been a very interesting journey since then. We've literally grown about 8x. We now hit about 1 million plus daily active users on the platform. Our downloads have increased rapidly. We get over a lakh and a half users every day on the platform. And even screen time, of course, expectedly has gone up. What used to be on an average somewhere under half an hour is now getting closer to an hour in terms of screen time. Another interesting trend that we've discovered is that, when we used to look at our overall day and hour-wise trends, we would see that the weekends would be much lower compared to now, compared to, let's say, 6 months back. So weekends would literally be about 70% of overall traffic on the weekdays. We believe obviously a lot of the gaming audiences also engages sometime during travel to office, maybe breaks during office and all of that,
Okay.
right? And on the weekends, people are probably also engaging in other forms of entertainment like movies or just going out.
Or getting drunk.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. In fact, I should check that. Maybe it dips from Friday night, but I'll get back to you on that. But yeah, we've seen that trend shift completely. Now, literally, the traffic is flat during the week. Of course, people are locked down. Every day is like a Monday or a Sunday. That's changed. The other thing that's changed as well is that previously you would see a spike in traffic happening post 5, 6 p.m. I mean, that would be the biggest peak of the day. And that would sustain till about then 11 o'clock or so. That has changed. In fact, now we see 2 spikes. So the first spike comes in starting 12 or 1 p.m., goes on till about 4 or 5. I think that's when probably people go then take a nap. And then it again comes back up again at the same time around 7, 8 p.m. and then sustains for a little longer. So sustains till about 12 or 1. So we've definitely, seen these shifts in gaming behavior. And of course, all of this has meant a lot of users, a lot of growth coming in for, I wouldn't say just us, but for all gaming platforms and apps out there.
Probably Winzo's been doing well. Almost everyone's been doing well.
Yes. So, a lot of these platforms have also come up and, that's one new trend we believe is going to continue in the future as well. I think I lost you again, Anil, if I'm still here.
No, I'm here. I'm very much here. I'm on a Hathaway connection. No, nothing bad towards them, but it's unstable. It's run by a friend of mine and owned by the Reliance Group. But Jio is very much a part of it. But we're having a bit of a patchy delivery of broadband over here.
No, I'm sure even the networks have seen peak traffics.
Absolutely. So probably a lot of webinars could be happening at this moment. That's one possibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Between
continue.
Gaming, webinars, and YouTube, TikTok consumption, it'll all be up. But yeah, so a lot of the gaming platforms you're talking about they've been doing well, and the advantage they have is that they're not just one game, but they have multiple games and experiences within the same platform, which has taken sort of an edge during this time because people, when they download the app, they get to experience a lot more content rather than them trying to download multiple apps.
So you were saying the app is what is really working well. You were talking about the Paytm First Games app, or you're talking about which has an agglomeration of everything in it?
So both. We've always had the strategy of having multiple games in the same app. That's obviously forced us to work on new technologies and innovate on the platform technology side. But that strategy worked for us, especially during this time, because even though one game suffered, which is fantasy, the other games gained that from that the lockdown. And that helped us. So what happens is now what we see is that a lot of people obviously engage with Ludo. And I'll talk about the sort of innovation we did in Ludo just a while back. But people engage with Ludo, and then because there's a lot more content to engage with in the same app, they end up playing a lot more games. And that sort of helps us in keeping the stickiness up for the app.
Fantastic. So again, you mentioned Ludo. You gave away a lakh of rupees every day, right? How did that fare?
Well, that's going on right now. And, the response we saw of Ludo has been just like, is massive. We started out with Ludo. It was like Ludo that you would probably see anywhere else. But then last month, we actually did a Clash Royale tournament, right? And I'm mixing the two, but I'll get to that. And then we saw the really overwhelming response that we got of that. And then we had a brainstorming session. And the conclusion was that, hey, of course, you have these eSports games that are, of course, doing really well. But the one game that everybody is probably playing in the country right now is Ludo. So why not just jazz that up? Why? And, Ludo has, by the way, all the elements. Most of the games that are growing right now are all social and multiplayer, right? You play with friends and you play real time, right? And Ludo has always been that, right? So we thought, why not jazz that up and just make that into a tournament, right? So imagine yesterday when we opened up the first one of it, first leg, we got about 3.5 lakh people who registered for.
Wow.
Yes, right. And we did it into a proper tournament format like you would see in an eliminator format anywhere else, right? Everybody logs in at the same time at 7 p.m. They all get matched and they start playing. The winners of each board move to the next round and the others get eliminated, right? And that ended up being like 7-8 rounds. In fact, that tournament is still going on. There's a round every couple of hours for that. And 3.5 lakh people registered. We had planned it for 1 lakh users, but eventually close to 2 lakh people actually turned up during that 10-minute window just to play Ludo. And we suddenly realized this is a definite opportunity to acquire a lot of users, engage a lot of users as well, right? So, Ludo obviously does monetize as well. It monetizes through ads and in-app purchases.
Sure.
But what this tournament really does is that it really, I think it raises the stakes. It ups the hype around the game. And we're actually planning to even live stream the final board of Ludo where the top guys will win money, which will happen tomorrow evening. And we're going to experiment a bit more with this format. But what this format has done is that it has taken a game which is already sort of played by many and loved by all to the next level.
Yeah, it gets older people like me interested too. I mean, as I said, I've been playing, and imagine if you took this on a platform like I don't know, whether Twitch or you take it on television. You could.
Yeah, we're doing both actually. What we're doing is we'll obviously live stream it on the Paytm platforms, the Paytm app, also on YouTube as well. And, we're also working out a couple of media partnerships where some of these highlights will also be streamed. So to us, it looks like a game which has always been there. But I think it can sort of evolve into the newer formats of content as well and become even more popular.
Great. So you said the numbers have gone up, but has the revenue gone up concomitantly, or have the advertisers, like in television, though the viewers have gone up, they've not been willing to pay too much because they say they don't have product to sell in the marketplace. The launches have been delayed. But right. In your case, you could have advertisers who are actually having digital product to sell to the gamers.
So, overall, of course, the revenue has definitely gone up in line with the kind of growth we're seeing in all the other funnel metrics. How we make money is through multiple means. So, we have a lot of casual games on the platform, games like Ludo, which are all free to play, and they monetize using ads and in-app purchases. Then we have the skill games on the platform, games like Rummy, where you advertise or where you monetize with platform processing fees, right? And then the third one is, of course, eSports, where we've just begun. So what's happened is that, interestingly, the in-app purchases have gone up, which has been a very, very pleasant outcome of all of this. So it's not just the existing users who are paying more, but now a lot more users are also paying. And there's always this fine line in between a paying user and a non-paying user in games, right? But it's a very hard line to cross. So I think what this period will do for us is that it'll actually help us get a lot more users on the other side of the line, where they start paying for games, they start experimenting with games, right? So that's gone up. On the advertising revenues, I think that has suffered a bit because a lot of digital inventory was not available during this time, right? So I would say probably ad revenues would take a dip for many casual games as earnings, ECPMs drop for everyone. But on the other hand, then you have games like Rummy, which have done very well during this time. So overall, if you're someone in the gaming space, while you would have, of course, seen the metrics and the users go up, all in all, your revenue should have gone up significantly as well, assuming you do at least one or two of these three, right? So even if your eCPMs are down, but the ad impressions are up, so you still end up making more money.
I understand. So you said there were in-app purchases. So what were people buying?
People are buying, we've got a lot of these, games, of course. Apart from Ludo, we've got a lot of these match 3 type games on the platform. Snake, a lot of runner games like Danger Dash. So people are actually buying in-app virtual currencies. And that's been what has been really interesting. So,
fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. In terms of, let's say for long now we've been locked out. We've not had fantasy. So how are you going to open this up now that opening up is happening? The lockdown is gradually being staggered and opened up. So how do you see things evolving for yourself? And that's on the gaming, on the consumer side, and on the company side. Is your organization located in a red zone area? One, and are your the professional who work with you, where are they located? Are they going to continue WFM, work from home, WFH, or is it going to be a combination? How do you plan to handle this entire opening up?
Right. So let's break that down. Right. One thing is, of course, fantasy, which is like a big chunk of revenues in India when it comes to revenues in gaming. Right.
Sure.
While obviously that has literally come to a standstill, I think what we're seeing is now slowly, not just not India, but around the world, a few matches, a few leagues are already opening up. And I think it'll still be maybe a quarter before everything comes back to even, let's say, 70% of what it used to be in terms of sporting events. But that gradual buildup has started, and I think not just for us, but for all companies that operate in the fantasy space, what this time period gives us is actually it gives us time to build the product more. And that's what we've been doing as well, because, you're always otherwise running on a treadmill. But this would be a quarter where all companies have the opportunity to improve their product, reduce the tech debt, and all of that.
So you're talking about May, June, July, or you're talking about the March, April, May, or June, July, August?
I was actually talking April, May, June. But anything you see it, I think, it's in the foreseeable future, June, July looks pretty slow in terms of fantasy, right? Sure. Also because, as the lockdown eases out, it'll anyways happen in phases. And then even when it happens in phases, there may still be restrictions on large gatherings, as we've also seen in other parts of the world.
Absolutely.
So, while people hopefully and thankfully will be able to go to work, some of the entertainment options will still probably take a longer time to open up, right? And that includes malls and cinemas as well. So, that's on the fantasy bit. And, that's what exactly we've been doing as well. We got more time, so we're further working on the product and improving the experiences. Now, when it comes to the overall expectation that we have, once the lockdown eases out, is that, of course, people are going to get back to work. So one expects a dip to come in gaming overall engagement. But on the other hand, what at least I strongly believe is that 6 to 8 weeks is a long enough time to build habits, right? And a lot of us would have added new habits in terms of games, right? And gaming. So a lot more new users have definitely tried gaming, and some of the existing gamers have probably tried more games and are probably more hooked onto it. So even though the dip comes, I would say the new normal would definitely be much higher than the pre-COVID lockdown days, and that's really an encouraging sign for the overall industry, I would say. And that's how we are planning it. So what we're doing on our end is that we're not sort of slowing down, expecting a dip, but at a platform level, for example, if we have a lot of games, we are actually continuously sourcing and adding a lot more games so that we have that pipeline ready. Because, as I said, the normal is going to be still higher than previous normals.
So how much are you expecting it to be higher? And we'll get on the other part of my question after that. Is it going to be 20% higher, 10% higher, 15%?
So, see, everybody would have definitely grown 50 to 100%, or that's the numbers that we have seen across the board. After the lockdown eases out, we probably expect a dip of about 20%, but nothing more than that. So,
wow.
Yes. So because or at least from a platform perspective, from our point of view, the games that we have range from the really light 2 minute, a few seconds engagement games to then the longer term engagement games, even let's say like a farming game, right? For us, the behavior that and we've seen this in the past as well, especially let's say when fantasy stopped, a lot of our users did not migrate because they still had more games to experiment with, right? So we expect that dip to happen, but people may still keep the apps in their phones because, again, as the lockdown opens, there will still be less entertainment options, at least in the beginning, right? You may not still be able to go to movies. So, that time is the time that we hope to capture still from the users.
Great. So the question I asked you about the company as a whole, how is it going to continue to function? Will you be doing WFH, or will it be, 25%? Like TCS has said, we'll have only 25% of our people at work.
Right.
The rest of them can work from home.
Right. That is, I read about that. But we personally, for me, work from home actually works amazingly, as long as let's say you don't have to go do some new business development. A lot of our work, and I think that's probably true for a lot of technology companies, a lot of your work can still happen, even though everyone's stuck at home. And, for us as well, while, our headquarters is based in Noida, I personally, for example, stay in Gurgaon, and a lot of our team members are spread all around Delhi NCR. So we've managed to function pretty seamlessly during this time. For now, in terms of the way ahead, we're getting more and more clarity about how the lockdown will ease day on day. But, assuming there's going to be, let's say, a 30% population allowed, we'll wait for a couple of days. And, once we get that clarity, we'll probably start filling back offices. But I think work from here is here to stay. I think a lot of companies may take calls to at least allow employees a couple of days of work from home, as long as it is not impacting productivity, which it hasn't, let's say, in our case. It does definitely ease out on various infra requirements and resources. And, at least, let's say for me personally, I have 3 hours of travel time every day, right?
Why is that? Where do you come in from to Noida?
I stay in Gurgaon.
Wow.
And I travel from Gurgaon through Delhi to Noida. So, that's 3 hours for me. That's safe. But of course, we'll start getting back as well as the world starts getting back.
So are you bootstrapped enough in the sense, do you have enough cash, or, you gave away some 458 crores last year, if I'm correct, in winnings, if I'm right.
In winnings, but then
Yeah.
A lot of these winnings come from the money that people are also investing in playing, right? So, but otherwise, at an overall level, I would say we are well capitalized.
Okay.
We, in fact, despite being well capitalized, we've also seen an increase in revenues as well. So, we
had a 16 million round, we had a 20 million round.
Correct. We had a 16 million first round and then a 20 million round, and which happened, I think, as late as 6 months back. So, and we were anyways planning to invest a lot in marketing during IPL season. That didn't happen. So, we will continue using the rest of that money to sort of build more on the platform, add more games, and we have a decent runway as well.
Fantastic. So what kind of games are you looking at bringing on the platform? Have you cited any, or have you been talking to certain developers?
We have. So, we operate like a platform. So we work with developers around India and the world. And, the recent rise in Ludo has, of course, piqued an interest in a lot of games, a lot of board games that, India has played for a long time. Games like Carrom. Carrom, by the way, does really well. Games like Tambola have started doing really well, although they're casual games, right? So, there's definitely an interest in getting a lot of such games, board games or games we all play as kids, more online, but not just standalone, but with a more social and competitive element to it, right? So, for example, how we sort of change Ludo, similarly adding games that, let's say, a Carrom game or an even Uno game that people have played, but adding more competitive and social elements to the game. So we're already talking to a lot of developers. In fact, the last few weeks have been really interesting because a lot of big studios in India have also sort of, I think, they've also seen the power of these platforms where there's a lot of user traffic. So there's keen interest in working with platforms as well. And, our plan is that we should launch 2 games every month, every fortnight effectively, because you've got a lot of users. So, it's important to engage them and continue feeding a lot more new and interesting content. And that's on the game side. Then, of course, we've also launched the eSports vertical internally as well. So, we did the Clash Royale tournament last month. We've already announced a Garena Free Fire India solos early couple of weeks as well. And that's going to start, which is going to be really interesting because Free Fire is a very popular game in India with a lot of user base. And this is in partnership with Garena. So, these are individual solo championships. So that means we will open it up for as high as 20 to 40,000 people to participate. And it's going to be a 2-month-long tournament with the Garena Free Fire India champion coming out. In addition, we're also going to be adding a lot more esports events and tournaments as well, because we've seen there is a massive interest in that.
So what kind of esports events? Are they going to come courtesy ESPL, the tie-up you did some time back?
Absolutely. So, many of these tournaments will be partnered with ESPL. ESPL is, it's a global platform for amateur leagues. So the idea in esports is you've of course seen the big pro events and the big pro players who play these large tournaments, right? But in the career of a gamer, they all start at the amateur level. And, we think there is a massive opportunity to sort of help build that ecosystem, be a part of building that ecosystem where gamers across different game titles are able to at least start working towards their career. So we'll launch, we'll create those amateur leagues as well, again, across multiple games. That's one. Apart from that, we will also be focusing on a few college leagues as well, because that's where, I would say the maximum amount of interest is in all of these esports games. So it's going to be a pretty busy calendar when it comes to esports. It's going to be a very busy calendar in terms of even the new games that we keep on adding to the platform. We've already got about 20 in pipeline that we're working on, and we might just end up launching more than 2 a month as well.
So these will be all online. When do we see it coming out in the real world? These will be because we crowds are not going to be allowed, stadiums are going to be shut. Absolutely. So that excitement which we feel when we go to an arena and watch esports being played on those big screens is something else.
No, I completely agree, Anil. In fact, we have grand plans when it comes to that. all those plans, of course, have been impacted by COVID. So we're going to see how it goes. In fact, even the Free Fire India Solos is expected to be in a large offline tournament format. So, we've intentionally not announced that date yet because, again, we're in the same boat as everybody else when it comes to sporting events and entertainment events. So, although we are hoping that post-July, we should get into organizing those big arena events as well, the ones with big neon lights and the gamers get the glory.
Absolutely. So now, you were talking about the eSports. Are they going to be primary for mobile, or are you looking at also PC-driven games?
So we are, of course, going to focus a lot more on the mobile. But there is still a significant audience that still engages on the PC. I mean, I am myself a CS gamer, right? So we will be also adding a couple of the PC formats as well.
So any thoughts on that? What would these be, or are you still in planning?
That's I would say that's still in early stages. We've gone ahead with the phase 1, which is adding multiple mobile publishers in partnerships. And, we'll scale that up in the first half of the year. And that's also when we will also work on the league, the amateur league that we talked about with ESPL. And then going forward, in the second half of the year, we'll also add the PC games.
Okay, great. But, you talked about college tournaments. That seems, a college league, that seems exciting. Could you elaborate a little more on that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of talent when it comes to gaming and potential for even pro players that comes from there, right? And, it goes without saying that people in colleges are already engaging in a lot of these sort of, tournaments which are self-organized or, matches that they just organize between themselves. So we see that as a very large audience and, it sort of operates in a fragmented manner. So the idea is to, organize this a fair bit, get all the colleges together, actually crown, let's say, the Delhi college champions and, the the Maharashtra champions. So the idea is to bring that together, create more of a community, a larger community, which is game-wise, and get them to compete at even a national scale.
So you'll be doing zone-wise, then going national.
Absolutely. Zone-wise, zone-wise would be when a lot of this will be happening through affiliates. And then as it comes to zone to state to national is when we sort of take over and organize that. So
now, are we also, that's amateur, but are we looking at also pro leagues at the college level?
We haven't sort of planned that out so far, but it's definitely in the long list of things we want to do when it comes to esports in India.
Fantastic. So, you've got a certain bunch of new users on board. They're going to start getting busy, though colleges are not going to open for a while. Yeah. And schools are not going to open. So what do you intend to do to build stickiness amongst the users you've attracted? What are you offering? Are you offering them freebies? Are you offering them other things to get them to stick onto the platform?
So Anil, what we believe is that the game and the content itself needs to first of all be engaging and sticky, right? I mean, while we're a platform which has a lot of games and a lot of sort of loops and competitions for the users to engage in, but the core game that the user interacts with on the platform needs to perform well, right? And that's where we've actually worked a lot on in the last few quarters and have a fairly strong bouquet of games which retain users, right? Now, of course, as you mentioned, that's not enough. So, it's not so much about giving a lot of freebies and goodies to the users, but just having enough competitive element within the platform, right? So, we added a social connect on the app where, I can add you as a friend and I can keep challenging you for matches. Now, what we're going to do and add on to that is, we're going to start bringing out personalized leaderboards. So let's say Sudhanshu has won on, let's say Ludo itself, like 6 times against Anil, right?
Sure.
So the idea, and this is where it go back to what we believe how gaming is going to really grow and evolve, which is, somebody else also said it, that gaming is becoming like the next social network, right? So gaming is going to continue to evolve, which is going to be super connected and competitive, right? And those are the kind of product innovations we will keep adding, wherein I can see like my friend's leaderboard, where how am I doing on various games versus you, and then we'll keep coming up with, let's say, weekly challenges where gamers can also compete at a weekly level across different games.
Great. Now, you've also got a few casual people like me who started enjoying Ludo after a long time. I used to play table tennis and stuff like that, because those are shorter format games and you don't have to really get into the passion of killing people. First shooter, you're finishing it off quickly.
Right.
So I'm going to turn competitive. How are you going to handle more and more of these casual people wanting to become competitive?
Well, that's where we keep raising the stakes for the people who are becoming more and more competitive. We keep adding more challenges, not just at a game level, but at a platform level. We're actually going to be adding something known as, how we used to have those wrestling belts and boxing belts, right? So we're going to come out with, innovations like that, where Anil, you could be the Ludo Mania champion, right? Where you are unbeaten for so long, right? Things like that. So it's all about creating more and more, as what we like to call as loops for the users to compete on, and then you keep raising the stakes. Of course, we've got a lot of interest from various brands and partners to also partner with some of our formats. So that will help in adding also a monetary sort of benefit for even casual gamers.
Sure. Now, this was more about Paytm First games. Now, about the industry, I don't know if enough efforts are being put into place to encourage common as garden families, normal middle class families, to understand that you can have a career in gaming, whether as a developer, whether as joining a gaming company as an executive, or whether you're as a gamer yourself, or as a talent manager for games. So what is the industry doing in that direction, education-wise and otherwise?
Well, I think, there's a lot of course, there's a lot of investment going in by the gaming companies themselves in creating more awareness about games. And, just for example, the kind of work we will do on eSports and some other companies will do on various games makes people more aware that, playing a game can actually mean something in material value for you, rather than just just passing time, right? Apart from that, what we've also done, so we have various bodies. So, for example, we're part of AIGF. We're on the board of All India Gaming Federation. So we've all come together and created these organizations who can then go and propagate the benefits and the future, let's say, for the future scope and career in gaming. So AIGF, in fact, does a lot of good work when it comes to making people aware on skill gaming, on eSports. They have various experts on board who also publish a lot of studies and distribute them in mass for people to really know that, yes, if I'm playing games, I'm not just sort of killing time, but I can actually have a career in games. So I think a lot more work needs to be done again going forward with or in partnership with bodies like AIGF in creating a more positive and a more, I would say, constructive vibe and awareness around gaming.
Yeah, but I'm also talking about targeting parents, right, targeting families, rather than just the younger people who anyway get attracted towards the industry.
Right. So, I think there is also some sort of a shift when it comes to that. We've also met a lot of esports players, a lot of pro gamers as well, who actually get dropped to the venue by their parents. And what we also then make sure is that we involve even the parents in the conversation that we're having with the audience, so that also helps create visibility. Eventually, we all sort of get aware and we learn from each other as well, right? And it helps to have such parents also share their experiences on how their kids have benefited from gaming, and how they see more of a career in gaming as well. So I think we, again, as companies and as industry, we need to definitely also focus on that part of on that element of education, not just for the gamers but for the general audience and parents as well.
Yeah, so if you watch the Hire ad, which has the athlete from India who's being showcased in the Hire ad, so we need to get probably a gamer in an ad like that, on which makes a gamer into a hero.
Absolutely, I think in fact, as we are also as we will be also executing our own plans, that's part of the plan, and which is why we've planned an amateur league, we planned a college league, and then we've got these big events like the Free Fire India Solos, because we also really want to bring it together and showcase to everyone that you can actually start from the grassroots and then grow into a pro gamer, and it could become a career.
So gaming is not only hop-heads and nerds. Gaming is also about having a good career, having a good life, and being able to be respected as a gamer. So probably I've been told that I have to wrap up because we're running out of time. But your predictions for the Indian landscape in the coming year, and for India as well as for the world, where do you see life in the gaming sphere heading?
Well, a couple of things. One is I see a lot of platforms coming up, because this is what we've seen in the last few quarters, and even more so in the last few weeks. Aggregated platforms which sort of give a lot of opportunity for both developers and users to experience a lot more content, and cross seed are going to come up. So platforms are definitely going to rise. And more and more gamers are also open to creating H5 games. A lot of mini apps are coming up. So this will give rise to and multiple channels of distributions to game studios. So that's one. The second is we see eSports definitely coming up, and we've seen this globally as well. I mean, Formula One even organized a virtual racing because they couldn't do some of the the actual physical races, right? So that's going to come up because unfortunately the virus is still here, and it's going to be around. So everyone's still going to be worried about mass gatherings and all that. So platforms coming up, esports coming up. I think the other thing, at least specifically to India, that's happened is that and this is a very positive sign, because a lot of developers have come up who have also started localizing their content. You actually see the popular games which are made by studios in India, which are available in 10 languages. What that really does is it unlocks the next level of growth and engagement for the users, because you and I can speak in English, but there is still a large part of the population which probably would prefer to even read the game text in their own language, right? And the same level of focus we've seen even from some of the international publishers, because they've started localizing their content, which may not used to happen, let's say 3 years ago, right? I mean, a PUBG would have a kurta to buy during Diwali, right?
Sure.
And that's the kind of attention that's come into the gaming audience. And the only reason, of course, they would do that is to monetize, and they would see results for that, and which is why they continue to do again, right? So I think these are some of the trends that are going to happen, and shifts that will happen. And in terms of the overall growth of gaming, barring the soft dip that we will see after the lockdown opens up, we would probably expect to see gaming grow at a much faster rate than, let's say, how it's been predicted last year, right?
So what kind of numbers are we looking at? 30%?
Well, I mean, if you going by report to report, you'll see 15 to 20% CAGR expected for gaming, but I think that should go up to definitely above 30% in the coming years.
Fantastic. So that's heartening. I hope the advertisers come on board as well. More and more eCPMs go up, because CPMs have been going on video.
Yeah.
a lot, and I'm sure they've been going down even in games. I hope to see more brand-driven games coming out, which should be casual, which should also help populate your platform and many other platforms which are there. So, in terms of, I look after eSports Spa, which happens in Cannes for India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. So can I see a delegation from India coming and focusing on India at eSports Spa next year in February? Can I have you all taking the lead in that along with other gaming platforms and companies?
I think, Anil, that would be fair to expect, because this year with even us and a couple of other players jumping into the esports industry in India, there'll definitely be more representation as well. If I'm not wrong, I think we were there at Cannes this year as well, but not as a delegation, but there was a representative.
Yeah, because India is an exciting market. It's a mobile-first market. We've got so much potential.
Correct. Absolutely. I think, and anyways, that's part of our vision as well, to actually, highlight or light up India on the map of esports in the world right now. It seems a bit faded out, although it's got massive potential and everybody knows it's there. So, we would also be definitely going ahead and investing a lot of our efforts in making sure that India sort of lights up on that map.
So the television industry has done well. I look after MIPCOM and MIPTV. We take close to almost 500 people to Cannes every year. I mean, my company takes people out there. So I'm looking at maybe not 100 gamers and gaming companies, but at least 40 of you all. It'll be great to have India's flags shining in France. And last question from me: what is your wish list for 2020 for yourself and for Paytm First Games?
Well, personally for myself, I think it would be that I wish I lose some weight. I've sort of gained weight, in this whole lockdown period. Apart from that, as a company, we are definitely hoping to, and personally as well, I would say that, this whole lockdown and this whole virus situation should get solved as quickly as possible, because, despite the interest in gaming, it still is catastrophical for the economy and for many people as a whole, right? So that, I would say, is probably the biggest thing that I would hope for. But as a company, what we're really hoping is also, one is for, eventually sports to come back, because that's a key part of gaming in India. Secondly, as you mentioned as well, a lot more, brands can probably take note of what's happening in esports. But I think, as players, we also have a role to play in that, because we need to create enough properties and enough high quality avenues for brands to participate in. And, thirdly, the industry has flourished really well in the last year or so, especially with a lot more studios coming in, a lot more entrepreneurs and founders jumping in. And that's what I would hope to see, that, more and heightened of that activity continues to happen, because, that's always good for the industry. When we have a thriving ecosystem of gaming in India is when, we probably stop worrying about how the industry monetizes and how you retain users and all of that.
Fantastic. So, we planned something known as Games, Esports and More, which is a day-long get-together of the gaming industry and the esports industry. It's called GEMS. It got delayed because of the pandemic. We hope to kickstart it. Let's say if it doesn't happen at a physical venue, we'll go ahead like we're doing just now. We'll have a online webinar for a day long, so that, we get the industry together, we get brands together, we get all the ecosystem kickstarters together, so we can give it a leg up, even if we can't be physically present. But Thank you. It's been wonderful chatting with you. How old are you, by the way? How old are you? 34?
I'm 36. Yeah. Round about.
Fantastic. Wow. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And look forward to speaking to you very soon. Thank you very much. And thank you, viewers on Facebook, the Animation Express live pages, Indian Television, and Telechaka. It's been wonderful chatting with Sudhanshu. Until the next time, goodbye to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.